had approached a friend of mine with this idea I had of doing a rom-com web series. At the time, during lockdown, I occupied myself by watching like my favorite thing ever, which is K-dramas. And so I would just literally watch so many K-dramas, and I just sat there being like, if there was one thing that I could do or be in, what would it be? And it would literally be a K-drama. So I was like, well, what would that look like? What would a K-drama look like with a black girl as the female lead?
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Maria Birch-Morunga and I am the host of Colourbox Studio Creative Conversations. Very happy to be here. As a manuhiri, as a visitor on these lands, it's really important for me to acknowledge that the Arts Centre Melbourne sits on a site that has been a gathering place for song, storytelling and community for First Nations people for millennia. On behalf of Colourbox Studio, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to the kaumātua, the elders, past and present. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So hi, I'm Maria. A little bit about me. I'm from Aotearoa, I don't know if you figured that out, from New Zealand. And I'm grateful to call Melbourne home now. I am a visual artist, a podcast host, and a facilitator as well. So I'm an artist in my own right. And as an artist, I have been interviewed by the amazing Amy of Colourbox Studio, and now I have the pleasure of holding the mic and interviewing the wonderful artists today. We are about to see the trailer for Esther Fwati's No Ordinary Love, the web series, and it will give you a little bit of context for the conversation that we're about to have, so get ready.
You could escort me to the wedding. If Yonu sees me with you, there is no way that he's going to come up and ask for answers about why I broke up with him.
Is that the guy you left me for?
Oh my gosh. Smile and go for plan C.
Do you still have feelings for him?
What aren't you telling me?
I hope you enjoyed the little snippet of No Ordinary Love. Esther Fwati is an emerging actor, writer and producer based here in Melbourne, Australia. She is the creator of the 2022 web series No Ordinary Love, presented by Screen Australia and released to an international audience with great reception. I've watched it a couple of times. It's so good, guys. I want you to put your hands together for Esther. Come on up. How are you feeling, Esther?
I'm feeling good, excited, nervous, all the things.
Yes, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so I am an actor, writer, producer, emerging actor, writer, producer. And then professionally, I work in digital marketing. I've been doing that for, a number of years. Since 2011 with working within marketing, and then since 2012 working within the film and TV industry.
Now, I wouldn't say that you're emerging. I would say based off of No Ordinary Love, like she's on the scene. She's here. She's made her mark. Mm-hmm. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the drive behind creating?
Yeah, creating in general?
Yeah.
Yes. So I think it comes from being a middle child. And always entertaining for attention. I grew up in a big family. There was like 4 of us, and so I was definitely one of the middle children. A lot of my drive comes from, I think, being encouraged by my mother. So when it comes to writing, she really encouraged me to pursue that firstly in just writing letters to my grandfather, her dad back home in Zambia. And that was like, before... I don't think he had a phone and internet wasn't existent. So we used to write letters to each other, and she would encourage me to just write small stories to him. And from there, I just took to writing, took to TV shows, and acting was just my little outlet, always performing for the family, always performing for cousins and aunties. Yeah.
I love that aspect of your childhood has pulled through into what you do today.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so delightful. And the letter writing? You should write something about that. You've probably already got something in the pipeline, don't you?
You know what? I actually didn't think of that.
It's gorgeous. What a gorgeous little story. That makes me so happy and delighted. Now, writing, is that your first love?
I think so. I think it was definitely something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a writer before I realized that I could be an actor. I was the kid who would write in science class rather than my best friend from middle school. Like, we've known each other since primary schools, yeah. So she knows. I would literally be up the front of science class writing stories, and then my English teacher would take them and then make the class act them out. And so it was like just always something that I did growing up. And then I got into acting sort of from dance. So I grew up dancing. I did a lot of hip hop. I don't think this is something you know.
Oh my gosh, love.
Yeah. I did hip hop. I did contemporary, a little bit of ballet. And so I started auditioning for things, and suddenly there was this whole new world of acting. But it was sort of something that I thought was like for the special people. Like, it wasn't something that anyone could just pursue. And then when I realized, like, oh no, anyone can do acting, I was like, okay, let me give it a go. And yeah, it was just kind of like second nature from there.
Do you like being in front of the camera? How do you feel?
I do. So I'm a very introverted person. And then when people hear that I'm an actor, they're like, but how does that work? And I think it's maybe the outlet of my introversion. So it's like the place where I get to become a character, become someone else, and pretend to be outgoing and loud and bubbly and confident, and just be all these different things that I guess I don't necessarily always get to be in my personal life. I think, yeah, escaping into a character it's always fun.
Did you always approach acting as something that, you know, you would write something and then act in it, or do those paths not cross until No Ordinary Love?
Yeah. So writing and producing came about because I needed to work. I needed jobs in the industry. And when I was first starting out in acting school, I remember, I think it was Damien Walsh-Howling. He was one of our tutors at the time, and he's an established Australian actor, and he was saying he still has to create his own work to be able to work in the industry. And so then, considering that I'm a woman of colour, I'm black, I'm like, okay, well, if this is what everyone in this industry has to do, then I've definitely got to do that. And so I think that's where it came into play, where I realised if I want to be able to work and also do the type of roles that I want and I'm comfortable with, then I've got to create. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to start from the start and do all of the things.
All the things.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah. No, it is. It's been a big journey, and it's just been like, it's been tiring.
I'm tired too, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what is the dream job from this? Because you've got a really wide breadth of skills. What is the dream?
I would love to be a showrunner, actress. I think that's sort of the path that I'm like looking to go down. If anyone knows of Issa Rae, yes. Issa Rae, basically, I just want to copy and paste her entire trajectory of her career. I think it's amazing how she started off in web series, then it was picked up by HBO, and now she's President Barbie. Yeah. So if there's like an opportunity for me to end up in, honestly, something like even just being a Power Ranger, like that's my secret ultimate dream, then that's amazing. But yeah, being sort of like a creative producer, showrunner, and then acting in at the same time. Yeah.
You've got your foot on the path with No Ordinary Love. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of making that?
Yeah. So it was a couple of years ago, I think COVID days. And I had approached a friend of mine in Sydney with this idea I had of doing a rom-com web series. At the time, during lockdown, I occupied myself by watching like my favourite thing ever, which is K-dramas. And so I would just literally watch so many K-dramas, and I just sat there being like, if there was one thing that I could do or be in, what would it be? And it would literally be a K-drama. So I was like, well, what would that look like? What would a K-drama look like with a black girl as the female lead? And so, yeah, I approached her with this idea, and she was like, you know what, that's amazing. And so we sort of ran with that. We applied for a number of initiatives to begin with, and sort of the reception we had from a lot of these industry people was, this isn't an Australian story. This would work well internationally. This isn't going to reach an audience, that type of thing. But then I had applied to a Screen Australia initiative. I think it was like the Originate program, which is amazing for any independent creators out there. And Screen Australia, we didn't get through any stages or any rounds of that, but Screen Australia approached me out of that. They loved the story, they loved the idea, and they were wanting to know if I wanted to produce it independently with their money behind it. And I was like, yes.
Money, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you deal with being told that this wasn't an Australian story?
Yeah, I think it was very frustrating because I understood why they thought that, because it's sort of like two ethnic leads in a rom-com that's based in Australia. I got it from their perspective. There's not really a lot of content like that in the mainstream Australian media. But at the same time, I was like, but this is the point, like this idea of Australia that is often seen internationally by international people is very one-dimensional. And then I think there's a lot of people who wouldn't even realise that there are so many diverse stories out there. So yeah, it was very frustrating because I was like, no, but this is an Australian story.
We're in Australia, babe.
Yeah, literally.
First of all.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you guys persisted against that, because now we have this fabulous weird series. Seriously, guys, go and watch it. It's so good. I watched it like 3 times, and then I watched it before I met Esther on Zoom, and I was like, how am I going to meet her now? She's so cool. I've got a kind of dorky question. What is your favourite rom-com, and also what is your favourite rom-com trope?
Yes. Okay, so I've got I can never pick one of anything. I've got 2. The first, well, they're equal, but there's 2013. It's a movie called About Time, if anyone's heard of it. It's got Rachel McAdams and Domhnall Gleeson in it.
Oh, yes.
It's got time travel in it. It's amazing. It's a rom-com that everyone needs to watch. And then my ultimate classic is Father of the Bride. Yes, I love it. It's just like I watch it at least 3 times a year. It's good.
I love that so much. And tropes-wise, because I know in No Ordinary Love there's best friend's brother. There's a few other tropes. I wrote them down in my notebook, which I don't have with me. But what is your favourite rom-com trope?
I think for me, it's got to be like an enemies to lovers story. Yeah.
Oh.
And that's not just because in No Ordinary Love there's like an ex enemies to current lovers type situation, but no, I think that's always fun.
Bit of tension, it's a bit saucy. Now, off the back of the not an Australian story, can you talk a little bit about your experience as a third culture kid?
Yeah. So I sort of grew up in the southeast suburbs of Melbourne, and I did not grow up around a lot of other Africans. I grew up in a very multicultural setting in terms of I grew up with a lot of East Asians, Southeast Asians, a lot of Fijians, Samoans, Chileans. And so it was just like a mixture of everyone in this space. And all of us, we were pretty much either like first generation immigrant kids. And for me, it was being able to the fact that I didn't really grow up with other Africans, I sort of took bits and pieces from all of my friends and their different cultures. So like I would go to La Fonda every year. It's like a big Spanish festival. Or I would like go to my best friend's events that they would be holding, like my Fijian best friend, they would always do lovos and things like that. And I'd be listening to like Bollywood music. I'd be watching a lot of Asian American creators on YouTube. So it was just like picking from all the different cultures around me, and that sort of informed my own personal culture. And so in a way, like I don't for me, I don't always feel like I represent what people would think is a traditional African Australian experience, but then it also makes me question, like, well, what is the African Australian experience? But I definitely feel like a lot of immigrant kids can relate to the idea of you've got the culture of your parents and then the culture of Australia where you're living, and then this mix of what you really are, where you've taken from so many different areas and places. So that's what it was like for me.
And I feel like we see aspects of that come through in No Ordinary Love. So I'm interested in how much your personal experience informs your writing and the things that you create.
Yeah, I think, everything that I create definitely comes from a personal space, especially with this idea of being a third culture kid. I think we definitely both myself and my co-producer, Helen Kim, she's Korean Australian, she's based in Sydney. We really wanted to reflect what it was like to feel like you're not quite anything, if that makes sense. So like for her, she would go back home to Korea and they'll be like, oh, you're not Korean, you're Australian. She'll be here in Australia and I get the same thing. Oh, you're not Australian, you're obviously something different. And so we wanted to sort of reflect that within the two female characters within the story and their experience of what it meant to be Australian in that sense. And then just the other elements of sort of meshing K-drama world and Western romance and romantic comedy tropes, I think is a very third culture thing to do. Just taking from bits and places and like creating something new.
And I'm so glad that you did, because I love it.
I'm glad you love it.
What is, beyond what I just said right now, what is the best compliment or feedback that you've gotten?
Oh my gosh, I love it when people come up to me and they're like, I feel so seen by your work. We've had comments on our YouTube and our TikTok being like, did you read my diary? Did you hear about my like relationship that I went through 2 years ago? And I was like, wow. They just, for a lot of women, in the US, the UK, the Caribbean, the UK, South Africa, they were just very excited to firstly have a dark-skinned woman representing a female lead in a rom-com. It's not always the case in terms of casting. And then they were excited to be able to see this story of an interracial couple and two very strong cultures and how they deal with all of the drama that comes out of that. And they felt very represented, because oftentimes when love stories are told about an interracial couple in film and TV, most of the times it's usually like one of them is white and then the other person's an ethnic person. And so this time it was showing a love story between two ethnic people, both collectivist cultures, both very strong families, parents, strong mothers, all of that. And just the clashes that come out of that, all the drama.
And so, and like in my life, my parents were in an interracial relationship. And so like when I look at No Ordinary Love, like I can think about their love story, and there's a bit about it that's relatable for a lot of people, because I think it's really striking in the web series that there is a Korean man and a Zambian woman. What was the decision making behind that? How did you guys land on that?
Yeah. So one of the reasons that we decided this specific pairing outside of like the K-drama fusion was because there was, I think it's a 2014 or 2013 study from OkCupid. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but basically they did a study of attractiveness and dating preferences on dating apps. And they found, these are their findings, that in terms of desirability, when it comes to women, Black women are the bottom of the scale. And when it comes to men, Asian men at the bottom of the scale. And so Helen and I, we talked about this and we were like, this is so outdated. Like this is not a reflection of the real world. It's definitely one portion in terms of like people on the apps definitely can experience discrimination for those reasons. And it's a valid part of people's experience. But it's also something that we were like, okay, well, game on. We're going to put a black woman, an Asian man in a rom-com at the front as the leads, and show people that it can be something that people gravitate to. It's marketable. It's people want to watch it, and it's real and relatable.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's evidenced by all the great feedback that you guys have gotten and how many people have watched it and how many lives it's touched, and that's amazing. That's so amazing. Now, your day job is marketing.
Yes.
And I know, and I'm telling all the people now, that you did all of the marketing for No Ordinary Love. And that is very separate from the artistry that you put into No Ordinary Love. Can you talk to us about what it was like marketing for your own thing that you had made?
Yeah. So it wasn't the plan. It was a budgeting choice. Basically, we ran out of money and I needed to fill that spot. But it was good because I've got a background in marketing and I was able to do that. The way I approached it was all of our marketing, we sort of started with TikTok first. This was 3 years ago. We had no online presence. We didn't even have a YouTube channel set up. And so that was one of the things that Screen Australia had mentioned to us in terms of their concerns for us being able to reach an audience. We had no existing platforms. But I was like to them, I think we can build episode views if we take it through TikTok and create an audience there, then funnel it through to YouTube. And that's exactly what we did. We just did bite-sized snippets of episodes. We did little fun videos and entertainment that really got people asking like, oh my gosh, what is this? Where can I watch it? Is this coming out anytime soon? And from there, that audience, we kept leading them straight to YouTube and we were able to get our views, and Screen Australia was really happy with it, really happy about the marketing strategy as well. So yeah, it was a win-win.
And you're like, can you hire me for that, Screen Australia as well? That would be really, really cool.
They talk about it a lot in their seminars and things. So I'm like, okay, that's great.
You're like,
yeah, that would be good too.
Does it feel weird to apply, what you know and what you do in your professional job to your creative practice, or is it natural?
I feel like it's very natural. I remember my editor, she was always so surprised that I was a first-time producer. Like, I have no background in production. I didn't go to film school, none of that. And she was always like, how are you doing this? How are you leading a production for the first time? And I sat down and thought about it, and I think it really was because of my marketing background. The way I approached producing was, I guess, not so much through the creative or the film side of things, but as a marketer first. And I think that helped. It helped definitely in terms of getting sponsors on board. We got Hyundai on board for the project, which was a big part of getting funding. Yeah.
They're in a lot of cars.
Yeah. We're in a lot of cars in the show. So Hyundai, we were like, in Korea, Hyundai is a Korean company and they feature a lot in K-dramas. It's pretty much Hyundai and Subway. If you watch K-dramas, you know that they're always there. And so we reached out to them. We were like, hey, we want to do this Australian K-drama inspired thing and it's going to be like a first. You guys do this in Korea already. Do you want to back us? And they were like, yeah, that would look good for our brand and we want to support this. So yeah, we got them on board, which really helped us to sort of get the funding for the whole series as well. But yeah, so I approached it from a marketing perspective and I think it came naturally because I think more independent filmmakers should be thinking about the marketing way sooner than they usually are. I think that's one of the first things you need to think about, not just your pathway to audience, but also it helps inform things like what your stills are going to look like, what your posters are going to be, if you think about all of that up front.
Then you can go into the production of it and have those things in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you've kind of got more of a 360 view of it with that marketing lens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was good because before we even released, we had our stills. And because of that, like things, press releases and articles, we were always featured because we had images ready. Our posters we had up front, I made sure that we did a photo shoot. It was like one of the things that cost in our budget, but I made sure because that's like the first thing that anyone sees of your project. That's what they will judge your show on, and judge what their experience will be. And so I knew like we needed to nail that, and we did. And so that's something that I've seen that often independent creators will leave to the last thing. But if you can think of it up front, like already half of the work of bringing the audience in is done.
Yeah, that's so smart. If you had any advice apart from what you've already imparted, which is a lot and great, and I'm putting it in the back of my brain, but if you had any advice for people, filmmakers or not, and how they market themselves, what would it be?
Just do it. Nike. But no, honestly, like for me personally, when I think about like if I ever feel like awkward about sharing something or self-promotion or anything like that, I always think about the fact that there are people out there with less experience, less industry knowledge who are doing like great things because they're just putting it out. And so that's, I think, half the battle. And it doesn't need to look perfect. You just have to have an understanding of what your series, short film, or personal brand is, and then just commit and be consistent. Yeah.
Consistency is a really big thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's like, that girl on TikTok who did I'm looking for a man in finance, trust fund, 6'5". She got a record deal.
Yeah. See?
Like, what?
Literally, she was asleep one day and then she was like, I want a man to take care of me. And now she's got
now she got a record deal. Yeah,
so, just because she did something.
Yeah, exactly. And she probably just picked up her phone and was like, lol. And, if you're an artist, you're already creating something. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, it's always the artists who hold themselves back. But we are the ones who have, like, the bank. I know you probably got, like, notes on your phone of ideas. Yeah, all of that is like the stuff that you just want to be putting out online. And then it's always the like non-creative people who wake up one day and are like, click, and then it takes off of them. But usually it's because we hesitate a little bit more, which we shouldn't.
That's amazing. I feel so like it's so cool that you have this day job that maps really greatly onto your creative practice and puts it out there into the world. Mm-hmm. In such a cool way. Who you know? Sorry, yeah, that really made sense when you said it. I was like, this. You guys are in cars a lot, and I love it. Yeah, seriously, go and watch it, guys. That's your homework tonight, is to go and watch No Ordinary Love. Also, that's a Sade song.
Yes, it is. I didn't know until after. When I was trying to search for our series and I couldn't find it. But yeah.
And the song came up. Oh my God. Can you talk us through about some of the challenges or really joyful times, like in the actual filming process of No Ordinary Love?
Yes. Okay. I think one of the biggest challenges that I found in sort of the production phase of No Ordinary Love was working with a lot of seasoned, wonderful, brilliant heads of department who they've been around for a long time, they know what they're doing, but haven't necessarily worked with people of colour, so that whether that's lighting department, hair or makeup. And it was a thing of having to advocate for myself, having to teach a little bit in terms of this is the better way to do things. I think that was the most hardest part, just because you're working with these people who've been in the industry for like 40 plus years. They obviously know what they're doing, but in this area, they don't, because they just haven't had the experience working with darker skin, working with differing skin tones in the same frame, things like that. And so, yeah, sometimes it was hard to get past egos, but when we did bring it all back to the fact that we're here to create something, it's not about egos, it's not about anyone's CVs or anything. I'm not questioning that. I think we were able to create good work. But yeah, that was the hardest part, especially not really coming from the industry. And so then people are looking at me like, well, who are you? Like, why are you telling me this? But yeah.
You're like, we got to look hot. It's a rom-com.
We do. And also because, so like, when you're Black, when you're from African background, like, hair is a big thing. So I knew we had to get that right. And I know that we didn't, to my standard, we didn't really get there. And then one of the first comments, like the first comments on the first episode was about my hair. No. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that was like sort of like I wanted to be like, see, this is why I was so like
just screenshot it, send it in an email and be like, this is an Australian story.
So at the end of the day, I'm like, I knew why I was sort of like had a standard for it. It's just when you're not really from that cultural background, sometimes you don't really understand why it's important, I guess. Yeah.
I'm really proud of you for advocating for yourself and your like colleagues in that space, because it could have been easy to just roll over and be like, oh, I'm going to defer to your professional judgment even though I hate it. That's really brave.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's because I've got two older sisters and they never let me leave the house looking a mess. So I was like, I can't do that to anybody else. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. What was your favourite part of filming it?
I think honestly just being able to work with people, like the community, the collaborative nature of it. A big part of doing the production in terms of what our personal goals were for our team was to bring opportunity to a lot of crew who didn't get that opportunity. And so we had a lot of crew of colour behind the scenes as well as in front of the scenes, which was really amazing for the production. And it was sort of like a lot of people's first credits, which was really special because it's so hard to get a first step into the industry. And so it was nice to know that we weren't just creating a wonderful story, but we were giving people that first opportunity that they could then go to gain more work. And so I think that was the best part.
Oh my God, that's so cool. You're like, I'm going to we're all coming up, guys. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's
and it was
so cool.
It was just a nice environment.
Sounds very intentional.
Yes.
Yeah, which definitely. I think is a good way to approach all things, I think. Mm-hmm. And we're lucky to see it. What's next? Is there a follow-up? Because I desperately would love it.
Yes, so I've actually been working with the wonderful Amy of Colourbox Studios. I've been working with her for maybe like a long time, 2 years, nearly? No, almost. We've been working on taking the web series, developing a long-form version of it that we're going to like hopefully take to streamers and make it a thing. But yeah, we've just been in like the early pre-development stages of it, working through the story, but there's definitely an audience out there, and they want to follow up. They've been like, no ordinary wedding, and like giving us ideas and things like that. So I'm listening, taking notes, and we're definitely going to bring something.
Oh my God, that's so exciting! That must mean that it is audience question time. Are you ready, Esther? Mm-hmm. Do we have any questions? Hands up, hands up. Back again, repeat offender. With the notebook, I love it.
I'm slightly more prepared this time. When you were talking before about working with everyone behind the scenes and how you had lots of diversity and all that kind of thing and bringing like first-time creators into the project, how did you actually find all those people and how did you advocate to then bring them in and help you work on the project and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we did call-outs on a lot of Facebook groups. So like there's a lot of great diverse crew, diverse actors type of Facebook groups. And so we just went into those communities and groups and put out call-outs, got a lot of resumes, did the whole hiring, recruiting process from there, because that was a big part of it in terms of sort of working with the seasoned department heads and then also bringing in people who may not have the on-screen credits, but they've got the experience and the knowledge. So it was sort of just showing people the work that they've done, allowing that to speak for itself and reminding people that even though they've never been in a on-set role, they can handle it because they've got that experience being able to do makeup for dark skin. They've got that experience being able to light different skin tones where a lot of the seasoned people may not have had that experience. And I think that was another difficult part because Screen Australia is trusting you with money and a lot of money, and they want to make sure that the production is going to be done and done well. And so it was sort of like, yes, we've got a great story, and yeah, we can tell it with the crew that maybe on paper looks great, but if we want it to actually be amazing, this is what you have to be open to. Be open to allowing newer creators so that they can then, get more opportunity from it, and bring their talent to the project.
God, I love that. Audience questions, audience questions.
Actually, first of all, I've just got to applaud you because as an emerging creator, it's good that you do marketing because that's where everything just goes sideways. So it's great. It's really, really good that you actually got to do that. With this question is because I kind of lean towards the side that you went up. Just got to ask, because you did say you did grow up in Australia. When you're by yourself or when it's very few people from your country, that weird pressure of like, there's some things you can't do, you can't step out. But so it feels like you grow up with all the other people of color and it feels like it's tough because people in the end they think, oh, you had a run for it, but you're like, actually I struggled because I couldn't fit in. But does it feel like it makes you not look at stories the way you create them? Is like you just want to talk about that because actually we don't talk about it in our community. So does it feel like it's an escape, but also it's something very huge for the community?
Yeah, I think because I didn't really grow up with a lot of other African Australians, there's a part where I feel like, oh, I have to like make them proud or like make sure that they accept me. But there's this other part of me where it's like, well, I've had this experience of growing up in Australia and I am African Australian. So that is an African Australian experience. And it's kind of like what Issa Rae did with The Misadventures of an Awkward Black Girl. She was just telling her story about what it's like to be an awkward black girl. And what that did was allow black women to be seen as more than just the strong black lead or these stereotyped roles. And I think for me, in pursuing No Ordinary Love, it came from a place of where I just wanted to tell a story that I was into in a genre that I loved. And I think that as people of color, we don't often get to just create stuff that we love. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a statement. It can just be K-drama inspired. Like, one thing for me is when I started going through acting school, everyone would like compare me to people and they're like, you should be like Viola Davis. Oscar. Like, that's what you need to do, drama, hard drama, serious. And I was like, but I'm nothing like Viola Davis. I don't know if Viola Davis watches K-dramas. Like, I'm nothing like that. And so there's this idea, I feel like there's this idea in this box that people wanted to push me into, but I just do what I want to do because that's what I want to do. And I think creators of color, we should be allowed to tell great stories, mediocre stories, in the middle stories, like all the spectrum of stories, just because we want to. Like, there doesn't need to be something behind it other than it makes us happy.
Gorgeous. Do we have any more audience questions? Hello, sir.
A few questions, actually. So when's season 2 coming out? Can I be in it? I'm happy to play a tree. Third would be, how has film and TV shifted in the last few years, especially in the emergence of like more culturally diverse cinema, especially Asian cinema, I guess. Like, there's K-pop and there's films like Parasite or what else? Godzilla as well.
Yeah. So last question first. I think growing up, it was definitely America was the center of entertainment and there weren't any other options. And so like, I think there's this aspect of, I think there was a study that said your preference and attraction is usually based on the media that you consume. And so back then it was like One Direction or like, I don't know, Jonas Brothers, all of that. Those were the type of people that were the center of pop culture. But now I think a lot of Korean entertainment, a lot of Nigerian entertainment, Indian entertainment is coming out onto our scenes because of Netflix, because of streaming, because of online, and we're able to consume that. And because of that, I think it's really allowed people to see that there's options. There's not just American TV and American storytelling, but you can have such a wide array of entertainment to watch. I think what that's done for the American landscape, because I think they've noticed that people are shifting away from watching their content and they've got more options now, it's definitely pushed them to be diverse in a more authentic way than just, here's an Asian best friend. Like, now we're actually getting to tell, it's getting there, but we're getting to tell actual stories of people that are not just surface level, they're not just the supporting characters. And I think you can see that in, obviously, Crazy Rich Asians, in Shang-Chi. There's even like, I forget the name of it, but there's a rom-com out. Oh, I forget the name of it, but it's really good. You need to watch it. It's on Netflix. It's like got 2 male Asian leads in it, which is amazing. Like usually they only cast one ethnic person, but they've got 2 in this one.
Is it Fire Island with Bo and Yang? No.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then on the other side for other, like you've got Never Have I Ever, and you've got The Little Mermaid with Black Ariel. So I think it's really pushing America to start to realize that they can't just use the diversity card. They actually have to include diversity in an authentic, real way if they want to keep an audience. Yeah.
From the writer's room to the casting.
Yes, yeah. You got to have it in production, in the writer's room, because it's just different. You can tell when a story is, it's like people of color on screen, but then in the back it's all written by white people. You can tell. It just doesn't feel like it connects. And so I feel like they're really starting to understand that you need people of color throughout the entire process to make it interesting. I mean, just look at Bridgerton. Like,
oh my God. Don't talk to me about that. You'll get me off on a massive tangent.
Yeah.
We don't need that. Now, I'm no more audience questions because I'm going to ask one last question. When it came to reaching out for opportunities, how did you approach that for No Ordinary Love?
I think where I started was I looked at what our project was. I looked at what it was offering in terms of value, and then I thought of brands that our project would bring value to. So when it came to reaching out to like smaller sponsors and also bigger sponsors like Hyundai, the biggest part was we wanted something from them, but we also had to be able to give value to them. And that's the biggest thing I would say to think of when you're looking for brands and sponsorships and things like that. So we went to them wanting in-kind sponsorship from them, but we also, our project made them look really good. Like it was the first K-drama inspired Australian series, and it was supporting creatives of colour on and off screen. It was breaking down stereotypes, and so they loved it. Like they could just put that in all of their marketing releases on their socials. And so, yeah, I always approach it off a value-based system. When you're trying to gain value, also notice how you're giving value. Yeah.
That is such good advice, Esther. Thank you so much for this great chat tonight. You are so cool. Everybody go and watch No Ordinary Love. And can we give Esther a round of applause, please? I've released her from the stage. Now we are at the end of our evening. I feel so lucky to have had these conversations tonight. I also want to thank Amy Badalabasi and the Colourbox Studio team for letting me hold the mic. Everybody, thank yourselves for coming out to support artists in Melbourne. We love to see it. This episode was recorded at the channel with the support of Centre Melbourne's Play program. And yeah, thank you guys so much for tonight.